I think 2021 has been a very crucial year for crypto.
I think overall this year has seen that entire ecosystem more kind of legitimized, right? It's no longer why Bitcoin, is Bitcoin a scam?
The government has got this sense that banning is not an option. In the second half of 2022, I see all-time highs again.
In 2022, of course, I think metaverse is definitely going to be big.
The year is coming to an end, and really, what a year it has been. All-time highs, FUD like never before, metaverse and NFTs blowing up and whatnot. But many questions still remain with the cryptoverse. But the cryptoverse really has experienced legitimacy like never before. And one of the biggest points being discussions around India's crypto bill, which has been nearing the year when it comes to being discussed and in the making. And to understand what has happened so far and what's the future likely looking like for crypto adoption in India from the tech and landscape perspective, we have Sidharth Sogani, the founder and CEO of CREBACO Global. Now, CREBACO is a research, rating, and intelligence firm focused on cryptocurrencies. Hi, Sidharth. Thanks for joining in on Business Insider India.
Thanks for having me here, Ashwin.
And please welcome Abhinav Venkat, the Associate Director for Product at WazirX, India's leading crypto exchange. Thanks for plugging in, Abhinav.
Thanks a lot for having me on your show, Ashwin. Looking forward to it.
Now, very quickly round up. I mean, it's been a lot of momentous year, right? We head to the Business Insider cryptocurrency page, and we're doing like 5-6 stories a day, and that's probably the most populated channel when it comes to the movement in the landscape. What are your big highlights of 2021? I mean, maybe just give me 2-3. Sidharth?
So 2021, on a global scale, we saw the emergence of DeFi. Layer 2 solutions like Polygon, Starkware, and all these layer 2 solutions really helped scaling up the DeFi ecosystem. And also the emergence of NFTs, right? I think last year, same time, nobody knew about NFTs, and it just came out of nowhere. And we've been seeing a lot of traction in the NFT space. So these are the two main highlights which are there. Other than that, there have been a lot of action in the crypto space. We saw the ETFs coming in. We saw Coinbase get listed at a $100 billion valuation directly on Nasdaq, which was, I think, a revolution. A lot of it gives encouragement to the other companies who are looking at getting themselves listed in the public space. So, I mean, except that, a lot of exciting things have happened. The action at SEC and all these things. So, I think 2021 has been a very crucial year for crypto. So far, I'm in this space since 2015, and I think 2021 has been really interesting.
And we also have El Salvador, which legitimized, and people went,
absolutely.
And then you have China that banned, and people went,
China banned it, I think, for the 10th time. Every year, whenever the Chinese want to buy, they ban crypto.
Always in the moment of that. I mean, I have the same question to you, but I want you to add on and bring your outside and tell me what are the tech things in the world of crypto that's excited you as well.
Yeah, so aside from what Sidharth mentioned rightly, so I think it's fairly safe for us all to say crypto is now mainstream, right? In one way or another. No, obviously, as he said, you've got all these various technology innovations happening. DeFi has really kind of strengthened its position. So now you've got DeFi 2.0, which is almost like built on top of DeFi, and you've got all these really advanced economic models that they're coming out with. NFT, I think what we're now seeing is the kind of next wave of NFTs on how they're kind of making this whole thing more utilizable and increasing that utility aspect. What we're seeing is this huge now kind of creation of communities that are being rallied around NFTs themselves, right? So I think that's a really interesting kind of movement that we're seeing. Hundreds of kind of crypto communities, crypto whales, Bored Apes, Cool Cats, Lazy Lions. So I think, while all of that sounds crazy, there is some kind of, order to that chaos. And I think fundamentally what we're seeing is this ability to use kind of crypto and NFTs to truly kind of create communities that can rally towards some, common goal or, some kind of common belief. So I think that's really interesting. On the institutional side, I think the institutional participation has been I think, unlike never before. So I think, and this is not just in global markets, even in India, you're seeing hundreds of more larger HNIs and family offices now beginning to enter this ecosystem. So I think all of that is super promising. Obviously, the elephant in the air is obviously the regulation part. I think there are loads of folks kind of sitting on that fence, just waiting and watching to see when they can enter. So I think it's overall been super positive. I think the overall year has been great. China has banned crypto. I think there is this saying that always goes: when China bans something, you buy whatever China bans, you buy that, and then that is basically a sure shot way to make returns. So I think in that sense, that's good. Buy Bitcoin. I think overall this year has seen that entire ecosystem more kind of legitimized, right? It's no longer why Bitcoin, is Bitcoin a scam? I think we've moved on from that thing of, is it a Ponzi scheme? Is this a bubble? And I think now we're moving on to more like serious questions like what do these currencies actually do? Are they even currencies? What kind of functions do they play, and so on and so forth? So I think the fact that people are now asking these questions itself means that we've gone past the kind of flattening layer for about 7 years where we're questioning the very existence of it, right? So I think that's kind of the summary for 2021. And yeah, so I think 2022 is for sure looking like hopefully a great year again. Yeah.
To answer your question as to what is the greater goal is everybody to make money in a reasonably legitimate manner. That's all there is to it. No, but then put on your geek hat for a moment and tell me, from the product and development and the tech front, what's keeping you awake in a nice way?
So let me just, maybe the better way to answer this to see how I kind of see the industry evolving, right? So I think right now, if we were to look at the last like 3 years, or maybe 4 years, I'd say 2017 to 2020 has just been primarily focused on building infrastructure, right? So these are all your infrastructure projects, your layer 1 protocols, layer 2 scaling, DeFi. These are all the kind of money Legos and the fundamental infrastructure layers, right? Oracles, how do you bring blockchain data on board? So I think these have all been really interesting to kind of set that foundation. But I think right now, if you still look at the state of the market, all of these apps, I would still say they are reserved by or for the, as I would call them, technically elite, right? Because it requires a very high technical savviness to use any of these products, right? I mean, aside from a simple exchange, I mean, people talk a lot about DeFi, but if you've ever used a DeFi, you would realize the extreme kind of learning curve that is required, from maintaining your own private keys to even understanding self-custody, downloading, MetaMask, saving your keys, being aware that you're not supposed to lose these keys. And if you lose these keys, you lose your money. So I think all of these things are still way too complex for an average user to use, right? Whatever that use case is. So I think what I want to see, and what we will see in the next 2, 3 years or 5 years, is this rise of these consumer tech applications, right? I think so far, everybody is just building these kind of global applications that are like, anyone can sign into MetaMask and connect and just move your money and earn some yield. But that's not that useful for mass adoption, right? If you're looking at a country like India, and if I want hundreds of millions of people to use an application, they're not going to be relying on some kind of MetaMask or like some way they're just going to randomly store like a bunch of keys and actually keep that safe. They're going to want things that are extremely, natural to them. Username, password. Tell me my money is safe with you. Tell me it's insured. Tell me I don't need to wake up tomorrow and realize that I can't find my money again. So I think they're going to need all of these things. And I think this is where it comes to building these kind of centralized front ends, I would call them. There's this thing of CEX versus DEX. So I think the new apps will, whilst there is this whole rise of kind of Web3 and everybody is talking about decentralization, and all of that is great, but there's no way I am foresee a world where everybody in countries like India are just going to want to use only decentralized applications. You might want to interact with a decentralized money Lego, like a DeFi or something in the back end, but you're going to want something that's centralized on the front end. They're going to want a username, password, a company having an account. I put my username, sign in, my money is there. I'll call customer support. I can call them. They can tell me what's wrong with my account. And then maybe in the back, the company is then integrating and connecting with all these kind of external decentralized Lego blocks that may then deliver new experiences, whether that's lending, borrowing, loans, interest rates, basket products, all of these things. You can build a number of applications, but I think the fundamental idea is we need to reduce that kind of technical savviness that is required and bring it down to something where everybody understands that, right? So I
You know
think,
what you have just successfully done in Business Insider. Most of our interviews, we generally tend to ask people, what are the future jobs going to be like at a very meta level? Pun
yeah,
completely unintended. You have detailed out what is the tech landscape looking like, and what
absolutely.
is the thing that people should be skilling themselves in if they want to have like a career in blockchain based technologies. But thank you. That was absolutely riveting, and I think the next few years are going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
But I think the immediate thing that everybody is excited about, in fact, people were also excited about this last January, truth be said, is the bill that never eventually came to pass last February. We were expecting it, or everybody was expecting it in December, but doesn't look like it's going to get tabled in right now as well. But Sidharth, what have your thoughts been so far? Well, now that we know it's not likely to come and it'll only come during the budget session, but what have your perceptions and thoughts been over the bill, and what have your interactions really been like with the people who are working on this?
Yeah, Bill has been, I think we in India at least are around this, regulation thing since last 2-3 years, right? I think since the time RBI came out with that banning thing in 2018, we all have been desperate about regulations, and there has been a lot of media hype, So, but as of now, I believe that the bill, I mean, the government has got this sense that banning is not an option. It is very important to regulate this because it's a layer in the internet, right? You can't ban the internet. Likewise, you can't ban crypto. So they have come to this point that they've realized that it's impossible to ban. Even China has banned it, right? But there are still peer-to-peer trades happening in China, but China has no control over it. So that sets up a very good example for the entire global markets. And you see the entire G20 nations out there, except China, nobody has banned it. Everybody has come out with a some kind of tax understanding so that they can regulate it. So, and the kind of interactions I have had with the people who are kind of working on the bill, or who have contributed for the bill, so they are now very very open minded. So in 2020 we did this initiative of calling Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg on a webinar in 2020, and we had a talk with him, and we understood that the understanding what these guys have is not very good. Okay, then later on, Mr. Garg, uh, I think he opened up his mind and he understood more about the ecosystem. And now, if you see his existing comments or webinars, he is now more neutral and open to accepting the idea of what this crypto is. So this is not just with him. I think a lot of people at the top level, they have understood the potential of this space. I was in the parliament, and the kind of numbers were discussed was amazing. The ecosystem in India has around 10 to 12,000 people employed. The potential market size is in billions of dollars, and there is a lot of FDI investment also coming in this space. So all these things are indicating that we are not looking at a ban, but definitely we are looking at a regulation. Of course, we don't mind it being a strict or a compliant ecosystem. It's definitely good for the entire industry to go, but we are not looking at a ban for sure. For exchanges, there may be licensing. For traders, there will be strict tax compliances
Which
and
is
all
not a
these things.
bad thing. Tax it, definitely. Please go ahead and tax it. I mean, that's not a
Yeah,
bad thing at all. Yeah.
absolutely. Then and the moment you tax something, that means indirectly it is legal, right? And that's great. I think it's we are going in the right direction. It's just that we should keep in mind that we shouldn't make the regulations so strict that the ecosystem, instead of growing, it becomes more confined. So we don't want that. So there has to be a fine line where when we are creating the regulations. So yeah.
That's the tough part, right, Siddharth? What is that fine line going to be? And really, this is something that I want both of you to come in. From a consumer, from an industry perspective, Siddharth, what should that first light touch regulation, if I may use the word, or first set of regulation should be? And Abhinav, if you could come in and tell me, to foster the ecosystem, what is the kind of regulation you would like to see, so that it's helping everybody and it's not necessarily just either helping the investors or helping only the industry? How would you balance this, Sidharth?
So I think regulation doesn't come from the consumer; it comes from the industry players. So you cannot go to a investor or a consumer and regulate him. All you can do is regulate the exchanges, regulate other industry participants, regulate the developers and all those guys, right? So if there have been a lot of speculative assets, right? Very highly volatile coins, right? So there has to be regulations that these coins should not be allowed for investment for a very small investor who's like investing $5,000. He might end up losing everything. Also, there has to be more responsible advertising. The advertisements have been very, very aggressive, and it lures the nascent investor with, it's like, I mean, it's being portrayed as a get rich quick scheme. So there has to be more advertisement, sensible and responsible advertisements with disclaimers. And I think keeping in mind all those things, telling people that this is not a get rich quick scheme, you have to pay taxes and report it. I mean, most of the CAs in India, they don't know how to report cryptos in the books of their clients, right? So all these, I mean, this is not something which will happen overnight. I believe a proper set of regulations will take more than 3 years to be, the CAs should know how to deal with it. The lawyers should know how to deal with it. Until and unless these guys are are in place, we can't see proper things, happening here.
Absolutely, need to go down to the brass tacks. That is indeed true, and a regulation that improves over a period of time and is amenable to change. That is largely what we hear the industry asking for as well. Abhinav, from fostering the industry and the ecosystem, what is the kind of guardrails or regulations that you anticipate and hope to see?
See, I think, first we need to ask ourselves, what can we actually do, right? Putting aside the regulation and, just looking at the technology, just purely from a technology lens, and then we can see how to put the regulation around it, right? So what we're actually fundamentally trying to do, and, what crypto and blockchain is all about, is essentially it comes down to liquidity, right? What we're trying to do is increase liquidity for all kinds of assets. Now, whether that's stocks, whether it's cryptos, whether it's real estate, artwork, whatever that is, the fundamental goal we're trying to do is increase that liquidity by like an order of magnitude of, let's say, 1,000 or 10,000, right? So today, when we talk about our stocks, you've got money, you've got fiat money that's tied to maybe your bank, you've got, real estate holdings, you've got your stock, right? Now, that is all to me considered your worth, your wealth, right? So today, if you wanted to go and, buy something in the store, and if, let's say, you had no money in the bank, the only thing you have is your stocks, you would essentially have to go through this long kind of iteration to then be able to use that money, right? Sell it, wait for that T+2 back to your demat account, withdraw it, and then you actually spend it, right? What are we trying to do here in crypto? The thing is, once you've created this kind of digitally native token, the idea is you want to be able to make that extremely liquid instantly, right? So if I've got a Bitcoin that's worth $50,000, I should just be able to go buy a cheeseburger with $10 off that Bitcoin. Now you might say, why should I do that? It's not about why, it's about why not, right? Yeah. So the way I visualize it, you have this kind of super app where you have basically all your assets listed into one app, whether that's your crypto, whether it's your stocks, it's your assets, it's your house. All of this can be fractionalized, and it's about making all of that extremely liquid and extremely spendable, right? So I think that is the high level objective. So, now coming back to regulation, obviously it's a utopian kind of dream. I mean, not that utopian, because we are seeing Western counterparties, like for example, in the United States, almost all large crypto exchanges now issue a debit card. Debit card can be swiped in almost any store that's enabled by Visa or MasterCard, and it's not like the merchant on the other side is holding Dogecoin, right? Even if you pick Dogecoin, the settlement happens instantly, and that merchant is being settled with US dollar, all converted at that instant. So it's not like there is any volatility risk, and people may think that, hey, what happens if I use this illegal tender? My shopkeeper can't be sitting with a bunch of Doge, right? So it's like, That's not the vision. He's not going to be sat with Dodge. He's going to be settled with Indian rupees or dollar. So the question then comes down to just allowing the user to spend and increase the utility of that stock itself, right? So I think, and I think that's what a large part of, I think the younger generation of India is able to kind of sympathize with. They're able to understand this tech and understand the kind of economic benefits of creating such a system. We talk about real estate. It is not at all liquid. It's not considered a liquid market at all. So I think all of these are fantastic problems for blockchain. Now, the thing is about regulation. I think that's the other thing. I think right now we're down this path. We're trying to just like figure out which law, how do I fit this? Which law do I fit it in? How do I fit this in all the other laws that I've created? And I think that kind of approach is more or less seldom going to result in not so optimal solutions, right? Because you have n number of questions. So today, the chatter in the market, we're primarily talking about exchanges, crypto moving in, out of the exchanges. Of course, that's a problem for the government. I can understand that. But then it starts getting really kind of gray, right? How do you then, when you talk about things like DeFi, now obviously DeFi is the hottest sector in the world. If we were to ban it, that would have immense implications for not just the country, but also our kind of overall vision to move digital, right? But if you didn't ban it, you then have a number of questions to answer about that. Like, what do you even define as money moving outside the country, right? Because if I were to make a transaction to you, it's not like, or rather the question is, where does this Bitcoin even live, right? I mean, it just lives on a server, but those servers are nodes controlled by millions of people across the globe, right? So it's like, how do you even define? We're perpetually trying to look at, where does your server live? Is this in India? Is this in America? Has it moved? These questions are all gray, right? There's just no answer. It's a completely new paradigm. So I think the solution here is for, lawmakers to really sit down and just kind of really take stock of this new age world, right? Because I think you just cannot shoe fit any of these old rules because they just won't work. And any shoe fitting any of them would only result in a takeaway of some part of that technology. So, today the government says it cannot be legal tender, but as I come back to that original question, why should it not be? It's not like I'm asking the shop owner to hold Dodge, right? It's more like I'm just using it as a payment mechanism to just instantly settle the balance then and there, right? So why wouldn't I be able to do that? I've bought a plane ticket or booked hotels abroad with strange coins like Shiba and Dogecoin just through an international merchant, right? So all of those things already happen. So I think it would be a shame if it didn't happen in India, given the talent and, given also, we're also in this kind of path where in India, it's this kind of culmination of taking us to that next Silicon Valley, right? You've got mobile penetration that's at an all-time high. We've got 5G growing. So I think all the ingredients are there for us to really kind of stamp our authority as a country and really kind of, cement our positioning as this kind of next innovation hub. But I think for that to happen, there's a lot of discussion needed to be happen and to really keep an open mind and see how exactly we would curb all of this, right? So I think a lot of the things are not as bad as the government puts out to be. There's this, whenever we talk to regulators or banks, there's this frequent question, how would you block AML? Or, why shouldn't we block it? It would just stop AML. But my question is always, are these illegal, nefarious users? I've always thought blockchain is probably the worst place for someone to do something illegal because you just have a stamping record perpetually for life, right? Yeah. And if you ask me, these few participants who are maybe, doing kind of anti-money laundering or terrorism, they are not the users on exchanges like WazirX and Coin.dcx. They are not the ones putting their KYC up and registering. These guys are already using gray markets, which exist like every other market. It's not like there aren't gray markets for our own fiat currencies, right? So they're anyway there. So the question then asks, by banning an exchange, are you actually solving that problem? And the answer is most likely no. You're not going to solve that problem. They're going to continue to do what they're doing in the gray market. The only thing you've done is just stopped kind of, honest retail investors from investing. And not only that, you've also aggravated the problem by pushing those retail to the gray market, right? So I think the best course of action there is, again, to just tax it, improve, maybe standardize KYC and, AML norms across exchanges. So there is some, distinguishing factors between, the norms we follow. So I think a positive step would be, bring a kind of standardization across those processes, ensure that whatever we're doing does not hinder the actual technology development, right? So I think there are some ways they can do that, without going too much into detail. I think if thought through carefully, they can do this without causing too much disruption. But I think, yeah, I think I would just end by saying they don't have it easy. I don't think there are any easy decisions or anything which just makes anyone a clear winner. I think there has to be some kind of middle ground that needs to be achieved to also keep the larger population fairly safe. So I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out.
Definitely a balancing act, and I get this feeling like you're trying to devise solutions for problems that are not yet out here in terms of product development. How do I work through this if this comes about? And I'll be quite excited to see what you will be doing in the years to come. We're nearly running out of time, but I just want to wrap up. Sidharth, I wanted to come in and tell me that what are some of the things that, I mean, beyond the regulation, what do you expect from 2022 from the crypto space? A couple of things which you're fairly certain with, with your last 7-8 years of deeply looking into the space that, likely to come about in the year to come.
Wow. So that's a great question. So 2022, I see. I mean, in the second half of 2022, I see all-time highs again. I mean, we've seen the market move sideways right now, and there has been a lot of consolidation, a lot of new money coming in. So 2022, probably from April onwards, we'll see the market going up again. There will be better regulations in the market, including the US. US is still contemplating on certain aspects related to crypto. So we are hopeful to see more action from the US coming in. Of course, the bill is in India. The bill is expected to be tabled along with the money bill in 2022. So let's hope that the bill gets tabled at least. I don't see that it's going to get passed in the first shot. There may be a select committee appointed again, or something like that. But if the bill gets tabled, I think we are coming closer to better regulations. I still think that the taxes part of it will get regulated in the money bill, but the complete comprehensive guidelines will only come, I think, in the summer session.
Any new
Other than
use
that,
cases of cryptocurrency, of blockchain technology that you're anticipating?
So blockchain, see, there are several use cases of blockchain, and I don't want to get into the blockchain side of it because it's definitely a great thing, but I would like to say that crypto would get more mainstream. There are indications we are seeing in the US. Like I was in California last week, and I used your Bitcoin ATM for the first time. And I was in LA, in Santa Monica, and I typed Bitcoin ATMs near me, and I could see 6 ATMs in a 1 kilometer radius. So I think that is getting more mainstream. And I mean, in 2022, we should see all these things, like ATMs, more DeFi protocols coming in, which are easier to use. Like Abhinav just mentioned, right? It is really difficult for a normal guy to use MetaMask and switch to different chains and buy a lot of other DeFi things. So the UI UX will become better, right? The underlying technology will continue to be as comprehensive as it is today, but the UI UX will become more friendly. And this is something which evolves overnight, and it's a very, very fast moving space. So 2022 has a lot to offer. And if regulations come in, more mainstream adoption comes in, I'm expecting a lot of institutional money to come in. A lot of funds are being set up in this space. In the last 18 months, almost 350 funds were set up focused on crypto across the globe. So all this indicates that a lot of institutional money is coming in, right? So I'm quite. I'm looking forward to 2022 and the action it has to offer.
Amen to all of that. Abhinav, quickly wrapping up with you. You're looking into the tea leaves, staring into the crystal ball. What do you anticipate in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, 2022, of course, I think metaverse is definitely going to be big, but I think maybe things that people don't talk about so much. Metaverse is still majorly dependent on the success of various other kind of smaller technology innovations, right? And some of them, I think that's where I see a lot of development has to be made if they are going to kind of fulfill this vision of metaverse, right? So things like decentralized storage, decentralized compute. I feel like all of these things are, core building blocks of any kind of metaverse application. So I think we will begin to see more kind of traction coming to those kind of startups. And I think on the DeFi side, again, something that, people don't talk about too much is insurance, right? So I think, DeFi so far has been, again, just mainly used by retail folks. And, if we're now going to expect institutional investors to come in and, really pour money, I don't see them doing that without an added insurance, right? So you've got all these decentralized insurance protocols that then basically eliminate that kind of smart contract risk that is associated with these DeFi protocols, right? Of course, I'm sure you hear about all these kind of hacks and scams of DeFi protocols being robbed. So I think without that insurance component coming on and also scaling up, it's going to be, I don't see how they're going to, be comfortable putting in billions of dollars without that growth of that insurance sector. So I think that's a sector that I think is going to grow this next coming year as well.
What I would really like to do, there's a very popular YouTube series with Billie Eilish where they've asked her the same question year after year for the past 5 years. I'd like to check back with both of you in about 6 months' time and run through the same talking points for you to grade and evaluate as to how we have come so far. And really what you then expect given the the trajectory of the year in the past few months. But having said that, gentlemen, it's been a delight to have you join us here on our Business Insider India. Sidharth, Abhinav, thank you so much for taking time out and really laying it bare out in a way that most of us can understand and really help simplifying a lot of complex issues in a way that our readers and myself, so that we can understand the space better as we march into a more crypto-centric world. On that note, take care, gentlemen. Wish you a happy new year, and we hope to have you back with us again.
Likewise. Thank you for having us, Ashwin. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thanks, Abhinav. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.